Springfield City Group has gone global in its search for a partner to help deliver its $15 billion Knowledge Precinct that will complete the Springfield CBD. The 120 hectare precinct will be the key commercial area in the city's CBD and has been approved for over 1.2 million square metres of commercial space and over 5,000 apartments. The group has now put out a tender for a global partner, which it expects will garner the attention of some well-known Australian and international firms. Joining us to explain why is Deputy Chairman of Springfield City Group, Bob Sharpless. Welcome to the Urban Developer, Bob.
Thank you, Adam.
Now, you've been developing Springfield for almost 3 decades. Why have you now tapped into the market for a development partner?
Well, I think what we're trying to do here is to focus on a component of our project. And the Knowledge Precinct, as we call it, is themed around education, health and IT. So it's not a traditional area that a property developer would play in. And I think, from our point of view, we feel as though we would benefit from attracting an organisation that's got a bit more established credentials in this space. So I know we're 30 years into the project, but if you understand the history of this project, we've done this before. We have partnered with organisations who want to come and share the opportunity with us, and we just think these themes will be attractive to to companies that may be in Australia, but perhaps want to establish a footprint in Australia as well.
So let's get a sense of the opportunity that's currently at stake, the Knowledge Precinct in the CBD of Springfield. Can you actually just describe what that development opportunity is?
Yeah, so I mean, we've already established the Health City component, which is about 52 hectares. We've established the Education City component, and then we've also got another area of land which we call Idea City. So essentially, across those 3 precincts, there is the ability to promote a range of different development opportunities. It's about 120 hectares, so it's a large area. And it's basically a sort of large mixed-use precinct, but we do have some dominant themes that we think will underpin the majority of the development. So, health, I think everyone would understand. Health is just one of those, industries that's just growing, larger all the time. There's lots of people who, are in the business of health. At its core, the Health City project obviously has a major tertiary hospital. We've got the first stage of that hospital there at the moment with Marta. But the footprint that we've mapped out will allow a very significant tertiary hospital to be provided. So, we certainly think that that's probably the component of the project that's probably got the most attraction. But then again, the education component is also a big one. We've already got the University of Southern Queensland established. We think that it's likely that there will be other tertiary education providers in the project. We've already got we've got a TAFE in the Education City project. We've got childcare. We've got student accommodation. And then we move obviously into what we call Idea City, which again is an opportunity to put a bit more technology and the arts into a precinct. So it's a little bit like there's a bit of income producing opportunity, there's a bit of vacant land opportunity, but there's a very large blueprint that we've established. And as I said, I just think that these sectors are really strong sectors into the future, and that's why we think now is the right time to offer that in the marketplace.
It's an interesting offering. You've tapped investment bank Moelis Australia to run a global hunt for this development partner. What exactly and who exactly are you looking for? It's an interesting development mix.
Yeah, you're right. And, again, in the experience that we've had here is sometimes you don't actually know what you've got until you actually go and share the opportunity in a much wider environment. So, the reason we've engaged with Moelis is because they're a very, well-recognised investment bank that's got tentacles that stretch basically into the world. And, sometimes, as I said, we're so focused on doing what we do here in Springfield that we don't often think about what others might think of the opportunity. and Moelis in particular have said, look, this is a very unusual proposition that you're putting to the marketplace. We think we have organisations that we know that would really be interested in establishing a presence in a project like Greater Springfield in a country like Australia. And so that's what we're testing. We're testing just to see what the appetite is, and we're using an investment bank to run a process. And I'm not going to prejudge what that end result will be, but when we've done this in the past, it's always been incredibly educational to us to benchmark our project against what's happening in other parts of the world. And this is actually a mechanism by which I think we'll learn a lot from the process, that's for sure.
Now, you say you don't want to prejudge, but if you had to hazard a guess of the profile of the groups that would be interested, superannuation funds, big pension funds, investment banks, big infrastructure, sovereign funds, what do you reckon the profile is?
Well, I think you need a range of capabilities. I think clearly you need some patient capital because the opportunity does have a long tail to it based on the extent of development that is approved. I think you also need some innovation and entrepreneurship. People who can see an opportunity and then back themselves to make it happen. So I think it's the combination of those sorts of skills which is more likely, I think, to be what we would like to see. I mean, I think, we all know that if the projects were completed and they've got great income streams, there's a conga line of organisations that would love to own them. When it's just vacant land, then that's a really much harder proposition for people who are chasing income. So this is a bit of a hybrid. The projects already have income streams attached to them. But what we're hoping, as I said, is that people can see the opportunity to build on those income streams and hopefully bring some organisations with them that might not necessarily be either in country or even, in Queensland.
And so, Bob, what sort of partnership models and structures do you even consider for something like this?
Well, there's always a range, Adam, but I mean, the one we don't want is just outright sale. What we want to do is work in partnership with an organisation. We've sort of done that historically in the Springfield development. We found that you can only sell the land once, so it's it's been far more beneficial for us to remain in the project and to work out how to earn development fees, royalties over time, because that's worked particularly well for us. So working side by side with an organisation where we jointly do some things, where we contribute the land, where they contribute other skills, and then we create these assets and then put them into some sort of long-term ownership vehicle, I think is the one that we would certainly prefer.
A global search for a partner is pretty difficult at the moment when you can't get on a plane. So how's COVID-19 impacting the way that you go about this search?
We certainly we did delay launching the project because of COVID, because we were concerned about what those impacts would be. But a sense now is that the world is sort of coming out of COVID pretty quickly. Australia in particular, I think, has done particularly well. So, if anything, I actually think the timing is very good for us now because, there is a lot of interest in investment opportunities. Markets are actually remarkably strong. There's a lot of capital that is looking to be deployed. So, if you look at what's happening internationally in places like Hong Kong in particular, if you see how Australia is regarded as the standout economy in terms of how we've managed public health and recovered economically, then I actually think our timing's pretty good. So, the sector we're offering is a really strong sector. health and education and IT are three great sectors. So we actually are quite optimistic that our timing actually is going to work in our favour.
And then what's the timeline, Bob, for the search, and when do you think a preferred partner was likely to be announced to the broader world?
Well, I think it's certainly going to be probably a 6-month process. There's a fair bit of material that's been produced, which will be disseminated with people who respond to the process, and then obviously you go through the usual processes of allowing access to data rooms and things like that, and then you normally end up with a sort of a short list of people who have. That's obviously why you engage an independent group like Moelis to sort of run that process. But it's fair to say that there's already a number of organisations that they have sort of had some early discussions with that have said, look, once the project is launched, we would like to receive the material. So, I think if something happens through the process, I would expect it to happen within probably about a 6-month time frame.
And then I guess if you look around Australia and look around the world for any benchmarks or comparisons, you guys have always really carved your own path, but I guess it's interesting. What benchmarks or comparisons are you using for both this process and this proposition?
Well, again, Moelis have done a fair bit of analysis around what we would call real estate value proposition, particularly given the extent of the approvals that exist over the land. So, we've obviously got different financial models that calculate value based on rates of development and the usual things that we're familiar with. But it's hard to pick any particular project that is similar. There are some projects in the US that some of our other partners in the project have sort of shared with us that have some elements that are similar, but generally, as I said, we just approach it. We would really like organisations to get involved that are not represented in Australia. We want someone who can play the long game and sort of build into the project and then meet the demand that's going to exist over time. And a number of these larger organisations have shown they can do that.
Well, Bob, we'll keep our eyes and ears out for how you go in your hunt for a partner for this exciting opportunity. We thank you very much for your time, and we'll no doubt talk into the future.
Thank you, Aaron. It's been a pleasure.